So we now last updated our capital improvement plan in 2000. We are in the process of updating the plan right now. But by law, before you calendar, I'm begging your indulgence. What I'm reporting to you is that I promise to come back about 2 to 3 months with the action. I know it is not trying to be disingenuous. We are required to do. So with that,
Mr. Drinkwater, real quick, and this is getting ticky-tacky, but I think we're out of order on this. We have, it's the RIF
I jumped
on 6.1 and then IFSA on 6.2. They're related, they're similar, but yeah.
I'm sorry, Dale. I got it. Would you like, how'd you like, do we have to, because the agenda was approved as presented, do you want to do that?
Yeah, let's, I think so, because nobody moved to take it out of order, just in case.
I got excited.
Sorry, Dale, you're up.
All right, good evening. I'm going to close this out and open my presentation. Okay, so good evening. Thank you, Chair and Commissioners. My name is Dale Keller. I'm the Deputy Executive Director at the Regional Transportation Commission of Washoe County, or RTC. With me in the back today is our Engineering Manager, Jeff Olbrecht. And you're going to see a lot more of him as we go through this Regional Road Impact Fee update. Some of you may be familiar about the program, so this is a very basic introduction of what we do and how this all works with the City of Sparks, City of Reno, Washoe County, and the RTC. So simplistically, it's really been a good funding tool for collecting the cost of new developments, capacity demands on our regional road network. So as the graph shows here, new development occurs, new house comes online, they pay impact fee, and those fees are collected by the Reno, by the City of Sparks, and then given to the RTC to go ahead and construct roads on our regional roads to improve capacity. The program has its advantages and disadvantages. The advantages is development's a way to pay its fair share. It's been viewed as an equitable system. It's been in place since the mid-90s, and the system works relatively well. Some of the limitations it does have, so these fees that we collect only can be used on capacity. So they cannot be used on operating cost or for maintenance expenses or non-capacity improvements. So this is strictly regarding vehicle capacity. The program is governed by this NRS 278B, which allows local governments to enact impact fee ordinances to administer the program. Each local agency, so that's City of Reno, City of Sparks, Washoe County, and the RTC, we entered into a 4-party impact fee cooperative agreement, or an ICA, which outlines our roles and responsibilities. The RIF program, or Regional Road Impact Fees, has 2 components. The first one is this Capital Improvement Plan, or CIP, which we are in the process of updating right now. We tie this to our long-term transportation planning called the Regional Transportation Plan, which we're looking to adopt right now as well. And that's our long-term planning, which directly impacts our CIP. And then the second one, under the last bullet, is our General Administrative Manual, or we call our GAM. That outlines our guidelines and procedures to administer the RIF program. So we're governed you heard from Mr. Drinkwater, every 3 years to update this program, and it reflects as our long-term transportation plan. For some of the details, RTC is responsible for the administration of this program, so that's why I'm here in front of you today. We work closely with local staff, as well as our local governments for determining what these RIF fees are and how we collect these fees. We do have a RIF Technical Advisory Committee, or we call it RIF TAC, and that provides input to staff to how we administer the program. Out of your Planning Commission, Commissioner Reed sits on our Technical Advisory Committee and help provide input. So as we present in front of today's CIAC, there's some understanding about, hey, where have we been, and some input that we hear directly more at a staff level. And then you see on here from the CIAC, that's your job is to oversee and advise the local governments regarding the RIF CIP. So when we come here later this spring, we're going to have a list of projects that are going to show here's what we're looking to use and set this RIF fee. So it'll be more in-depth presentation about how we develop our fees, and then also talk about what projects they're going to put and spend those money to. Our program has two benefit areas or service areas. We have a north and south. So the north one is the dividing lines I-80. So any money that we collect for new development north of I-80 gets spent in that area. Likewise, any money we collect south of I-80 gets spent in that area as well. How we do this and how we determine our fees are based off of the increases of vehicles mile traveled. So we take a look at how far we drive today, how far we drive in 10 years from now. That delta of that new, or we call it the development share, that's how we calculate those dollars per VMT, or once again, those vehicles mile traveled. The show maybe it's the success or what fees we collected over the last 10 years. And we'll get into more details about the middle column about credits used, but you'll see on the bottom right, over the last 10 years, we've collected over $176 million worth of either revenue or credits collected. So this has had a tremendous impact to really deliver some of these projects and keep up with some of the needs for the new development. And I'll also say this is part of the solution. It's not the solution as we talk about growth in a region. I'm sure each of you experiences congestion from your daily commutes. This is a good avenue to help address part of the solution. Like I said, we do have an upcoming RIF CIP that we're looking to present back to the CIAC later this spring and maybe early summer. What we do, like I said, we forecast 10 years of traffic growth and then take a look at what developers' responsibility is out of that need. And lookalikes, we're trying to adopt this new RIF fees and CIP in summer of 2025. That concludes my presentation. I'm happy to answer any questions from the commission.
Just wanted to make sure I understood the impact is developers when they're doing their building permit.
Correct. So the fees are collected during the times of building permit or time of occupancy, and it gets calculated by city staff, and it's either based off of so residential has a fee versus a commercial use, and there's a formula that we calculate that the permit office collects.
Commissioners, any more questions? We need to make a motion to accept. Motion by Commissioner Green. Motion by Commissioner Pitts. We can vote. Yeah. Any opposed? Motion passes unanimously.
Thank you.
Thank you. Move on to 6.2.
Now, thank you, Mr. Chair.
30 minutes.
Hey, that's perfect. I can do this. I can do it in two. Once again, Michael Drinkwater, Community Services Director. I apologize, Mr. Chair, for my excitement earlier and jumping the gun and getting in front. As I said, and it's just substantially similar to the road impact fees, except we have the 4 areas: sanitary sewer, storm drain or conveyance of stormwater, parks and trails, and then the fire service. So same concept. Except in our area, unlike the RTC, ours is limited to the blue area. Do I have, Jim, can I have the screen? Thank you. Limited to the defined blue area of technically impact fee service area. Number one, I have to say number one. As Mr. Keller said, we are in a similar condition where we are updating our CIP. currently evaluating any new projects that we need, but in the last few years, that is since we last reported to you, we have constructed some. As you can see, Reach the blue, Reach 9. Reach, that's a drainage ditch. Recall when Spanish Springs was all agriculture, management of stormwater was substantially different. Now that it's developed, there's a little bit more runoff, and that runoff has to be managed appropriately. So we have a fairly intricate system of ditches and drains out there. The farther, as development moves north, we have to push that system north. So you can see Reach 9 is fairly at the edge of the northwest-ish area of the city. So that was constructed in the last few years. We have other projects that will be coming forward, but we're also assessing the impact of Five Ridges. You know, immediately west of that, you see the graded, the brown area. That's the Five Ridges project. And we are assessing how that's going to impact, you know, what projects that might be constructed as part of Five Ridges might be of regional significance and therefore be considered for IFSA credit. So that's something that's ongoing, and we'll be back with your permission, you know, your indulgence, you know, in about 3 months, about the same time that RTC is back with you for the updated CIP with recommendations for your consideration, and then to recommend to the Sparks City Council for adoption. Sorry, out of one more, I'm getting out in front of myself. Regional trails. Once again, the blue trails are regional trails that have been constructed in the last 3 years. And once again, as one might expect, at the far northern edge of the city, as we grow that direction, our infrastructure is being built to keep up with the population. So I probably went a little bit more than 3 minutes. I apologize for that, but I'm happy to answer any questions.
Thank you. Commissioners, do you have any questions for Mr. Drinkwater? No? Good.
Then with your indulgence, sir, I would ask you to similarly just accept our report, and I will.
I move to accept the report on the first. The service area number 1. Second that motion.
Moved by Commissioner Reyes. Seeing none opposed, passes unanimously.
Thank you, sir.
Anybody from the public want to speak? Comments? None? And now, we adjourn.
There, just on the step there. So because of the way minutes will work. Yeah, to approve them, that's why you don't see them on 3 years ago here. Come on. Following. Secondarily, their president would during the
Comments? For this meeting, recess for 10 minutes.
Consent. All right. All right.
So, it's me.
All right, I'll take a motion to approve the minutes.
Mr. Chair, I move to approve the minutes on Tuesday, November 9th. Meeting Thursday, November.
I'll second. Oh,
Too late.
you beat me to it.
We got some fast fingers up here. I got a move by Commissioner Kramer and I got a second by Commissioner Elkins. May we take a vote? I see we have a unanimous, no oppose. The motion passes. All right, we'll go to public hearing, PCN 24-0013/CU 24-0012.
I have a disclosure.
Okay,
I want to disclose that I am a coach with the Reed High School Band and I am paid for my services there. This application seeks approval for improvements at the Reed High School campus, including a new band room. While I don't know that I would get any direct financial benefit from this item's passage, I am paid for my work with the involvement with the band. This decision could be a factor in any continued involvement, and on a personal level, I absolutely love the Reed High School Band. After weighing this for some time, I don't believe I could be impartial here, and I believe this is a situation where the independence of judgment of a normal person in my situation would be affected. And this is a clear case of disqualifying conduct. I understand that oftentimes these issues only require disclosure and don't require that I abstain. But given my paid position with the band and my love for the band, my personal interest in the band's success, and the possibility of this decision being factored in my future involvement with the Reed High School Band, I will not advocate for or against the passage of this item, and I will not take participation in the discussion. I will abstain from voting on this matter, and thank you.
all right, thank you.
I also have a disclosure. My company does do work for the school district. I haven't been involved in the application, and I don't believe this is a situation where a person would be affected, and this is not their case. Will not.
Okay, thank you. Any commissioners have any more disclosures? Nope. Danny, you're good to go.
The item before you today is a request for a conditional use permit to allow for the intensification of a substandard development at Reed High School, which is located at 1350 Bering Boulevard. The site is outlined in red, as you can see here, and it's generally located east of Sparks Boulevard and north of Bering Boulevard. The project's approximately 54-acre site is shown here, and is located in the PF, or Public Facilities Zoning District. It's currently developed with a high school campus and associated athletic fields, as well as parking lots. So this request seeks approval of the CUP to allow intensification of an existing development that is substandard as to the quantity of landscaping, specifically the number of trees on the Reed High School campus. The intensification includes the construction of 71,400 square feet of additions to 4 existing buildings and a new 3,264 square foot maintenance building. The proposed building additions include an athletics addition of 11,200 square feet at the north end of the school, facing Shadow Mountain, a 24,000 square foot classroom addition at the southeast corner of the school, a 6,200 square foot music building addition on the west end of the school, and a student hub addition within the existing courtyard that would enclose an additional 30,000 square feet. Additional modifications include replacement of the turf at the football field, a new press box, new tennis courts, and a single-point entry at the school. So this site plan shows where some of these additions are occurring. The school was originally constructed in 1976, so there's been some time since there's been any additions and modernization to the school. Existing buildings on the campus total 233,583 square feet and cover 9.44 acres, or 17.5% of the site. Site also includes 15.15 acres of landscaping area, or 46.6% of the site. The school has a population of 2,708 students, which is not anticipated to increase as a result of the additional building space proposed. Rather, the additions totaling 71,400 square feet are intended to take the place of existing portable classrooms that have been added to the school site, as well as to modernize the school facilities. So a substandard development means a lawfully improved lot or parcel, including any structures which does not satisfy the current provisions of the Sparks Municipal Code regarding parking, landscaping, signs, or other site development standards, including building height, building design, setbacks, or other dimensional standards. As you know, municipal codes are updated from time to time, and certain standards are changed. When that happens, it does create nonconformities and substandard situations throughout the city. So the Sparks Municipal Code allows intensification of a substandard development if the entire development provides at least 75% of the currently required parking and at least 65% of the currently required landscape. However, if a substandard development cannot meet these requirements, the subsection allows the proposed intensification to be considered only through the CUP process, which is why we're here today, and provided the proposed changes are not detrimental to the public health, safety, and welfare. So while 75% of the currently required parking is provided on the Reed High School campus, the landscaping is less than the 65%, which is the required minimum. So that's why we're here for this CUP request. This slide shows the landscaping plan that is provided with the application. It also contains that 15.15 acres of landscaping area, or 46.6% of the site. The site is not deficient in landscaping area, as 20% is what is required. But it is as to the number of trees. The minimum requirement for trees is 1 tree per 500 square feet of required landscaping, and 1 tree with landscaped islands in the parking areas for every 10 parking spots. The site is 54 acres. Sparks Municipal Code provides the minimum number of trees to be 1,182 trees to meet the current 20% of the required landscaping requirement. However, the site currently only has 81 trees, and the preliminary landscaping plan includes 216 trees in total, which is well below that 65% of the generally required 1,182 trees, triggering the need for the CUP. When calculated, 65% of the required tree count of 1,182 trees equates to 769 trees. 81 trees is still far below the 769. The applicant was originally proposing the addition of 135 trees to the existing 81 tree count for a total of 216. Now, some of these benefits include reducing the benefits of a tree canopy, include reducing the heat island effect that asphalt parking lots produce as they absorb heat and then radiate that heat back into the environment. They provide shade. They provide habitat for birds and other animals. They produce oxygen in an urban environment, and they provide an improved aesthetic appearance to the school grounds for the students and the community to enjoy. While the addition of trees within the parking lot is not feasible without significant demolitions and construction, staff submits that more trees can be added throughout the landscaped area and recommends the additional condition requiring additional trees throughout the school. Staff originally recommended a total of 200 new trees be added to the site for a total of 281 trees, or 24% of the current required number of trees. Since installing the landscaping islands with trees in the parking lots are not feasible, staff supports the provision of trees in locations that are not encumbered with buildings and athletic fields, such as on the northern boundary of the school site, as well as along Sparks Boulevard in the western portion of the site. There may be opportunities throughout the main school campus, such as in the center quad area. Now, since our Planning Commission study session on Tuesday, staff and the applicant have worked out an alternative of 155 new trees, for a total of 236 trees in recognition of the constraints of the site. The applicant also has agreed to separately and not a part of the CUP add additional trees should the opportunity arise during and after development of the improvements. While the CUP process provides additional flexibility in determining the number of trees, staff does not believe the minimum requirement should be ignored, as trees provide many benefits for the health, safety, and welfare, not only of the student and faculty population, but of their community in its entirety, and encouraged to provide as many trees in addition to that total of 236 as is possible. And this slide here shows architectural elevations for the proposed additions to existing buildings and the new maintenance building. While there are no specific development standards provided in the Sparks Municipal Code for the PF, or Public Facilities Zoning District, compatibility with the existing structures on the site can be considered. The colors are commensurate with adjacent buildings, with tan shade being the most prominent to existing buildings, while doors to the buildings are reed blue. New construction adds elements such as metal perforated screens, wall panels in natural patina bronze shade, and colors ranging from almond for the exterior walls to reed blue accents on doors, metal fins and supports, and a horizontal color accent band. Standing seams roofs will also be reed blue. Proposed colors provide compatibility with the existing buildings on the site. This is another view. Another view here. So this completes the background and analysis portion of my presentation. So I'm going to move forward to the 5 findings that the Planning Commission must consider. This request is in compliance with finding C1 in the following ways. Comprehensive plan land use designation for the site is PF, public facilities. Public school uses are allowed for this land use designation. The intensification of the site allows for the modernization of an existing public school facility, which supports infill development in a location already served by public services infrastructure, rather than the construction of a new high school, thus promoting goal MG4 and MG6. The requested intensifications are compatible with existing structures on the school site, advancing policy MG13. The addition of trees to bring the school site into closer conformance with the Sparks Municipal Code requirements further promotes goal RC2 and policy RC. The supporting finding C2, Reed High School was constructed in 1976 and has been serving the community since that time. The school enjoys a joint use agreement with the city of Sparks for the facilities on its site, as well as the Shadow Mountain Sports Complex. The local neighborhood has benefited from the presence of the school with convenient access for its students in classes, athletics, music, and the arts, as well as other associated activities. And the school is surrounded by commercial and multifamily and single-family uses. Proposed additions to Reed High School will provide permanent classrooms that take the place of several portable classroom structures. This application for approval of a CUP for intensifying a substandard development is required for the deficiency in the tree landscaping on the site, which is addressed in condition number 6. For finding C3, natural resources are typically considered to be air and water, and this use does not produce any negative impact directly to these resources since the subject site has been previously reviewed as part of the comprehensive plan update process. Therefore, city staff does not believe approval of this CUP will impair the availability of natural resources or the region's ability to support population. Finding C4 is concerned with addressing identified impacts such as the following. The landscape. As discussed above in the analysis section, the site is deficient in the number of required trees. The parking area cannot reasonably accommodate new parking landscape islands with trees or cure the deficiency on the school grounds. Staff is aware of the limitations of the site, given it has existing buildings and athletic fields that restrict the area available for tree placement. However, staff also believes that a greater number of trees can be provided than were originally proposed. Since the Planning Commission study session, staff has worked with the applicant to provide a reasonable, doable number of trees for the site, given its current limitations. So while staff initially recommended the addition of 200 trees for the site for the total of 281, staff is now recommending that number to be revised to 155 new trees for a total of 236 for the school site. The revised condition number 6 requires final landscaping plan providing the 155 new trees for a minimum of 236 trees in total on the site, which is approximately 20% of the current Sparks Municipal Code tree requirements for a substandard development. For parking, available parking on the site is deficient in the total number that's presently required by the Sparks Municipal Code. However, the available parking does exceed the standard provided to allow intensification, as substandard development of a minimum 75% of the total required parking exceeds it, by 149 spaces. As such, no conditions are required to mitigate that deficiency. In terms of lighting, additional lighting standards are proposed for the interior of the school only and will be required to conform to the standards as provided in the current Sparks Municipal Code for condition number 10. So up on your screen and also in front of you on the dais is the revised condition number 6. And you can see it shows that it's been changed from a total of 281 trees to a total of 236, 81 existing, and a minimum of 155 new trees instead of 200. And finally, for finding C5, public notice was published in the Reno Gazette Journal on December 3rd. Notices were mailed to 280 owners of property within 500 feet of the school property, also on December 3rd. Planning Commission meeting functions as the public hearing for this item as required by Nevada revised statutes and the Sparks Municipal Code. At the time of the writing of this report, staff has not received any public comment on this item. So this concludes my presentation. Staff does recommend approval of this item. I've provided the recommended revised motion on your screens, and I'm available for questions, as is the applicant.
All right, thanks, Danny. Appreciate it. Commissioners, do we have any questions for staff? I see none. Yes.
Monterey, could you put this?
Yes, good afternoon, or good evening, Mr. Chair, members of the commission. Scott Carey, Development Services Manager, I guess Reed High School class of 03 for the record tonight. Mr. Chair, I would like to point out, while sitting here, we did catch a minor typo with the revised motion. My sincere apologies. The second sentence, where it's talking about in the northern border on the south parking lot will be at least 3 calipers in size. The intent behind that second sentence is that we would want along Bering Boulevard that those trees that are planted to be 3-inch, minimum of 3-inch caliper in size, not 3 calipers. So sorry about the little note.
I apologize. Thank you for catching that.
All right, you're welcome. Is the applicant here and want to add anything?
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and Commissioners. My name is Kyle Chisholm. I'm the school property planning manager with the school district. Joining me tonight is Teresa Polson, who's our director of design. Also Seth Bartlett, he's our project architect with Collaborative Studio. And Eric Roverin, he's our landscape architect. So just a quick background on this project. Some of you may know the school board of trustees recently adopted our facilities modernization plan, which is basically a 15-year strategic plan aimed at modernizing, renovating, reconstructing every school within Washoe County. It is this project, the Reed project, is the first high school project of that plan. So we're very excited. We think it's a very exciting first step, and we're happy to be here. The FMP, or the Facilities Modernization Plan, is a $2.2 billion planned investment into this community. As part of this Reed project, as staff already noted, we're renovating much of the site, including some additions, redoing some of the sports fields and courts, and other infrastructure, removing portable buildings that are fairly unsightly, and enhancing overall aesthetics and safety of the campus. That's very important. And although the building additions, although there are building additions proposed, no intensification of the site or increase of student body or staff is anticipated. So why are we here? So staff just gave a very thorough presentation, so I'm going to try and skip through this the best I can. There is one thing I want to point out, and that is that top code section there, which is a code section that's intended for 50-year-old sites just like this that may not be up to current code standards and where expansions need to happen. This isn't out of the norm, so there's obviously a code section in the Sparks Municipal Code that addresses it. And I just want to show that, and that's a precise calculation based on your building expansion, and we are meeting that section of code. It's really, as Danny pointed out, this substandard development portion of the code, that 65%, which I will say, the site does have 65% of the site landscaped, 46% of the site is landscaped, which exceeds the current code requirements. So even if we were to go and rebuild the school today, the overall landscaping area is exceeded today. What we're not exceeding is the tree count, as you know. This is primarily due to those existing parking lots, our state-sanctioned solar arrays on the east portion of the site. We obviously can't place trees under there. Existing buildings, including Alf Sorensen's, which is City of Sparks joint use facility, and the Shadow Mountain Park, which is on a portion of the school district property. Existing sports fields, where obviously planting trees in the middle of the football field doesn't necessarily work out, or the shot put or discus fields or practice fields, really any of those fields. So, and then in addition to that, we're working with RTC for the Sparks Boulevard Improvement Project, where we've dedicated and granted them an amount of easement and right-of-way for that project. And so that's basically, and I have a picture here, I'll show you in a second, but that's basically our entire western boundary of the site, which makes it very difficult to plant trees, if not impossible. So condition number 6, you just heard staff, and again, I want to thank Danny and Scott for working with us on this. I think that we came to a good resolution. We're happy with the revised or modified condition that was presented to you. This is basically a result of our interactions with our school administrator, school police, looking at all the different areas that we think we can plant trees, and we just didn't think we could get to that initial 200 number. And so we're happy with the 155. I will say for the record that we plan to seek out throughout this process, and as construction goes, more opportunities to place trees as best we can. So I'll skip through, just showing the landscape plan again. I don't know if you can see my pointer up there. You can see since our original plan that we submitted, these areas highlighted in red, we've added some additional trees already to the plans. We've added some to the courtyard in front of the building. The front of the building's kind of tough because we in speaking with school police, we have surveillance out there. So big, tall trees out in front of the building hinder that. And then, of course, the Sparks Boulevard frontage, and there's a major utility corridor there as well. So, and then on the west side, or east side, excuse me, you can see the existing solar array. You can see Alf Sorensen's up there, and then the north boundary is very difficult because there's a drainage ditch up there. Many trees that the school district planted years ago had to be cut down because of certain activities in that area and that drainage. So again, we'll look to other little pockets of area to plant as many trees as we can, but as you can see, it's very difficult in the current situation. I have some pictures that I put up here just to kind of give you a real world example. You can see that utility line there. That's going to be pushed over into the school district property, making it even more challenging all the way along that western boundary. You can see those are the former trees that at some point somebody cut down, and obviously they weren't wanted there. So again, you know, where's a place that we can put these they're going to thrive and do well for the community. Here's behind the baseball field. You can see our scoreboard, existing light poles. There is one mature tree back there that's relatively poor health. So not sure if that's a great spot to put them there. This whole back area along this northern boundary also lacks irrigation currently, so that is a major challenge. Some more photos, and then behind the tennis court, you can see that drainage ditch. Can't plant them in there, and then everything past that's the joint use area and shared with Sparks. So that's basically what I've got. I put a summary of findings. Staff hit that really well. You know, obviously, we think the findings can be met, and we would appreciate the Planning Commission's support. We're supportive of the modified condition, and myself and our team is here for any questions that you may have. And happy holidays, like your sweater, and let me know if you have any questions.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Commissioners, do we have any questions for the applicant?
Mr. Chair,
Yes.
this actually isn't related to the trees, but more just like the project in itself. What part of the courtyard is being like enclosed? Just out of curiosity, is it part like by where the cafeteria is, or? I'm just trying to envision where an enclosed part of that, because I also
I'm gonna bring our project architect in here to help answer that.
I'm just curious.
I think you need to come with this.
Okay. Yeah. Seth Bartlett, as he introduced me, a project architect with Collaborative Design Studio on this. Yeah, I mean, he mentioned a couple things that the project is trying to achieve, safety and security being one of them. One thing we identified early on as a design challenge with the existing school is that courtyard, and the fact that to access other parts of the school, you actually have to proceed into the school, back out in the courtyard, back into the school. So essentially, one of the tasks this project seeks to remedy is that circulation. So there's a pretty deep overhang, about 10 feet or so in that courtyard. So that is all being enclosed. So that becomes a circulation path for students so that they can stay inside the school, access the cafeteria, the other facilities. So the courtyard will get a little bit smaller, but in general, it's that perimeter that's being enclosed.
All right, thank you.
Thank you. Commissioners, any more questions?
Just look, there's job on that. When this was built, that's just a hate to say that. Rivalry with, now we had somebody else in this part, Reno. Anyways, that so there's, you're saying that the easement along Sparks Boulevard is a utility cord, that area along Sparks Boulevard where the utility poles are. You're going to, that particular area is going to become a utility easement that you are giving to RTC. So that is going to push that utility area back into your property. Is that correct?
Yes, that is correct.
As I understand it.
That is correct.
So, correct?
Will it utility easement?
Is it
or will it be
utility
right of
easement
way?
or right away?
So good question. So the majority of that Sparks Boulevard frontage is going to be easement, right? Utility easement.
Okay.
The southwest corner where the turn lane currently is.
Bearing turns onto Sparks.
Correct. That is where the additional right-of-way was given to RTC. Oh, where's my cursor? There it is. Right down here.
Right there.
Yeah, so to make that, they're going to be doing RTC is going to be doing some enhancements to that intersection. And as part of that, we needed to widen that section. They needed to widen that section, and so we have granted them a relatively small portion of right-of-way for the road at that portion. The rest of it is pretty much utility easement going north.
Going north. And all of those utilities along there are above ground. Am I correct? No.
I believe we have sewer
Yes,
coming from the northeast, Spanish Springs sewer intersection.
So they'll be underground.
Of course, some of them are in right of way. Some of them are.
So the overhead, so NV Energy can't go underground? I'm at tree issue.
I don't want
to. Tree issue coming up
Sure.
into the power lines. I mean, I see that, and I see all along the city, we still have above ground power lines. Can't plant trees because trees go into power lines and all of that. But if the road is, if that particular portion of land is in question, and you can't plant trees there now because, we have an issue because we have this easement going on and we have the road there and we have power lines there and there's not enough room to plant trees. Is there a problem putting the utilities underground? I mean, I'm trying to figure this out. Yes, ma'am.
I'm Teresa Paulson, Director. of
Teresa,
Planning
nice
and
to meet
Design
you.
For the school district. I have a little bit of information regarding that.
Okay.
We had done quite a few meetings with NV Energy as part of this project, and I know they did consider putting those power lines underground, but eventually they decided not to. I don't know the reason for that, but I know that was something that they discussed and decided not to put them underground.
Yeah, and just so this board knows, as part of our process with RTC, and I don't want to speak for RTC on the exact
Understood.
reasoning of why, because it's their project.
Right.
But we did initially request that they be placed underground, and for reasons that, for certain reasons, NV Energy and RTC decided that that wasn't the best plan of action.
I would add too, though, even if it was placed underground, I'm assuming there'd still be a utility easement all the way down that corridor.
Right.
Yes.
And it exists today as well. So
Right.
it's not going to be new. It's a
So-
current easement.
One other question then. Looking at this, you have a new, what did you call it? Media box? Press box that you're going to put in. Could there not be trees behind that press box?
I don't believe so. Again, because of that easement. The easement, I'm
So
not
is
sure
that
how
easement going to
far back.
come right up against that new press box?
I'm not sure how far back that easement
Okay.
goes.
Yeah,
We
and
would need to confirm that, but.
just to make it more complicated, there's also 2 existing cell towers on that site
yeah,
that
no,
also
no,
have
yeah.
utility easements through this area.
Okay.
So there's a lot going on behind that area. And in addition, that behind that bleacher section is, it provides our staff and the power company and cell tower companies access to all of that.
Okay.
So we've looked at this very hard, and
I have no doubt that you haven't. I'm just looking at everything going, I understand the dilemma that you're in, and there is, not a lot of, you're in a confined space. Who owns Shadow Mountain, the mountain itself? City?
Sure.
Yes.
Question, direct. I mean, I would look that up. I believe we own the city of Sparks, the people of Sparks own a portion of Shadow Mountain.
Does the school district own any portion of Shadow Mountain?
I'd have to look
Yes.
on a map.
Is that if the school district owns a portion of Shadow Mountain, isn't that a possibility that trees could be planted there as well? If that is a part of the school district property is,
Shadow Mountain Baseball?
no,
softball?
Shadow Mountain.
Oh, Shadow Mountain.
The mountain itself.
That is a possibility. City of
I mean-
Sparks, I believe, is required to maintain all of those trees. And I think that's been a challenge for them.
yeah, there's a, again, very complicated, but we have a
I
current,
mean, just
Yeah.
throwing things out there. I mean, I understand that, water in this area is a hot commodity. We don't have a lot of it, and it's something that is, that we need to look at, but thinking outside the box and thinking of other things and other areas where the school district property is, and you could utilize what is there. I mean, I'm just throwing it out there. I'm not opposed to what is currently here. I'm just saying, if there's a possibility that there could be more to meet the
Commissioner Kramer? They said they
requirement.
would actually
Yes.
plant more trees if they could.
So that's just, I get that. So that's where I'm going.
being that it's a joint use agreement
Mhm.
with Sparks, we're not willing to commit to anything
I
on that
understand.
there.
I would
but-
not ask for a
But we
commitment.
will look for those opportunities
Understood.
along the way, for sure.
Understood.
Sure.
Yeah.
Chair, I wanted to add some context, if you're okay with it,
Yep.
regarding
Yep.
Commissioner Kramer's questions on the utility for NV Energy. A unique component of the Truckee Meadows Regional Plan does not give the discretion of a local planning commission the opportunity to require undergrounding of a utility, because the utility will place the cost back on the entire rate base of Washoe County. If that was something that the Planning Commission wanted to explore, it would require the item to go to Regional Planning Commission and Regional Planning Governing Board for consideration of the requirement on the conditional use permit. So that would be quite the impact on the applicant.
I appreciate that. Thank you.
So as I understand it, you're willing to put more trees in than what you're agreeing to tonight.
Well, yes, sir, Mr. Chair. I mean, our original plan that you see here was for a 135. We're agreeing to add at least 20 more per that condition, and we will look for additional opportunities beyond that.
That's all I ask. Thank you. I
Thank
appreciate
you.
that.
Thank you for your presentation.
Thank you.
This is a public hearing item. Do we have anybody from the public wish to comment on this particular item? I see none. I will close it. All right, commissioners, do we have any further questions or discussion on this item?
No, I'm prepared to make a motion.
I will entertain that.
I move to approve the conditional use permit associated with allow the implementation of that does not provide by in fact supporting these findings for staff and subject to approval as modified at tonight's meeting of the Planning Commission, Thursday, December 19th, 2024.
All right, I have a move by Commissioner Reed, a second by Commissioner Elkins. Any further questions? Discussion? I see none. Let's vote. I see none oppose. The item passes unanimously. Thank you. On to PCN 18-004/PD 24-0004.
One second.
There we go.
Good evening, Chair and members of the Planning Commission. Just for the record, my name is Kobe Galano. I'm a planner here with the City of Sparks. Before you today, we have a request to amend the DeAndrea Development Standards Handbook to modify standards related to signs within the commercial area land use designation to allow a freestanding sign within the DeAndrea Point Commercial Center. On this slide, you can see the familiar boundary of the 861-acre DeAndrea Plan Development, shown in blue. The DeAndrea Point Commercial Center is shown in red and borders the western edge of the development. City Council initially adopted the DeAndrea Development Standards Handbook in 1998, which established commercial, single-family, multifamily, school, park, and open space land use categories. The DeAndrea Point Commercial Center is located adjacent to Vista Boulevard, north of DeAndrea Parkway, south of Los Altos Parkway, and totals approximately 8 acres in size. The 3 parcels shown in red are the parcels that could have a freestanding sign, subject to approval of this request. In addition to updating the allowable sign types within the commercial land use, are proposed updates to the handbook's land use maps, commercial sign standards and associated tables, a new figure depicting a freestanding sign in conformance with the proposed standards, as well as removal of content-based sign standards. Immediately surrounding the subject site is single-family, multifamily, and open space. The closest residential use to DeAndrea Point, the DeAndrea Point frontage is across Vista Boulevard, which will act as a buffer between the proposed freestanding sign and the closest residential use. It should be noted that the freestanding sign in this area would be facing north to south, as to be visible to traffic on Vista, and as well to reduce its visibility to the residential area to the west. The proposed changes include updating the handbook's allowable sign types to allow the freestanding sign, which I previously mentioned, in the DeAndrea Point Commercial Center. Excuse me. Updating the handbook's land use maps to call out DeAndrea Point. These changes can be seen on page 6 and 13 of exhibit number 4 in your packets. The reason for updating the land use maps is to limit the location of the proposed freestanding sign to DeAndrea Point. This would be consistent with the adjacent commercial center, DeAndrea Marketplace, which has a freestanding sign that was approved through a special use permit. Also proposed is removal of content-based sign standards, such as the requirement that all commercial signs are used to identify and locate commercial businesses and office areas. Removal of this content is intended to comply with First Amendment protections for freedom of speech. The city's review of applications for sign permits is limited to location, composition, and duration. As proposed, staff believes the commercial sign standards will ensure a high-quality design that is consistent with the existing commercial center without regulating sign content. Additionally, the proposed modifications remove the requirement that the Andrea Design Control Committee approve commercial signage prior to the issuance of a sign permit by the city. The city should not be responsible for denial of a sign permit based on a private organization's decision. Removal of this requirement streamlines the decision-making process for the city and reduces the possibility of litigation if the DCC were to reject a sign that meets all requirements under the handbook. That would also be outside of the city's purview of location, composition, and duration. Shown on the screen is proposed figure 3-25, which can be found on the second page in exhibit number 3 of your packets. The proposed sign standards in the amendment are consistent with this figure and include limiting the number of freestanding signs to 1 within DeAndrea Point, requiring the sign be placed within 30 feet of Vista's public right-of-way, specifying a maximum height for the freestanding sign to 25 feet, which is again consistent with the adjacent commercial center DeAndrea Marketplace, specifying a maximum sign area of 200 square feet, and ensuring that individual sign panels be no larger than 2 feet in height by 10 feet 9 inches in width. It also specifies that at least 50% of numbers and letters will have a copy area of 9 inches or greater in height, prohibiting sign display surfaces, from being illuminated, requiring individual panels with text and logos be constructed of aluminum, routed out and backed with white acrylic and graphic overlay, and requiring colors and construction materials to be consistent with the existing commercial center. The main intent here is to ensure that when a building permit comes in for review, the proposed sign is substantially similar to or the same as what is shown on the screen, if approved. That concludes the background and analysis portion of the presentation. An amendment to a plan development has 10 required findings that must be made by the Planning Commission. For findings A, B, and H, we'll cover those. So the proposed sign standard modifications support goal CC1 and EV4 by enhancing the shopping center's placemaking elements, identifying tenant spaces, and incentivizing retention and attraction of tenants within the DeAndrea Point Commercial Center. The proposed changes to the commercial sign standards do not alter the type or location of development within DeAndrea, and therefore are not anticipated to adversely impact any surrounding uses. The closest residential uses are located west of the subject site, and Vista Boulevard again acts as a buffer between those, the proposed freestanding sign and the residential use. The proposed amendment supports commercial areas within DeAndrea by providing another signage option to facilitate placemaking and tenant space identification for local residents both in and surrounding the planned development. No modifications to land use or acreage of commercial areas are proposed in this amendment. Staff believes that the proposed handbook amendment will not adversely impact the surrounding community's ability to enjoy the land abutting or across the street from DeAndrea Point Commercial Center. To cover finding C, a fiscal analysis was not required with this amendment because there are no proposed changes to density requirements or land use. Moving into finding D, E, F, and G, the proposed amendment modifies design standards for commercial signage and removes content-based commercial sign standards to better provide for the mutual interest of residents, property owners, and the public. This amendment is intended to support commercial uses within DeAndrea in a manner that is consistent with the original intent of the plan. Public interest, is served by the modifications to commercial signs as they provide for more visible but not excessive identification of businesses within the DeAndrea Point Commercial Center. The proposed changes will not vary the gross acreage of commercial areas or vary the ratio of residential to non-residential land uses. Additionally, the proposed amendment will not reduce the common open space area and does not change any of the commercial building design standards within the handbook. Moving into the last two, I and J. As proposed, the changes will allow any interested party to pursue development within DeAndrea in accordance with the handbook, making finding I. And for finding J, public notice was given as required by NRS and SMC, or Sparks Municipal Code, on December 3rd. A total of 2,668 notices were mailed to all owners within the DeAndrea Plan Development and within 750 feet of the Plan Development boundary. It was also published in the Reno Gazette Journal, and today there has been no, as of today, there has been no public comment received by staff. In conclusion, the proposed handbook amendment aims to allow a freestanding sign at the DeAndrea Point Commercial Center, which is consistent with the adjacent commercial center just across the street, North DeAndrea Parkway to the south. Staff worked with the applicant to develop a minimum letter and number height, which is intended to ensure people driving on Vista Boulevard at the common speed that's traveled on that roadway can easily be read. They can easily can easily be read on the sign. Staff believes the proposed freestanding sign will be of a high quality design and complements the existing commercial uses in DeAndrea. Staff recommends the Planning Commission recommend approval of this amendment to the City Council, with first reading taking place on January 27th and second reading and final action on February 10th. And with that, I'm here for any questions, as is the applicant and his representative.
All right. Commissioners, do we have any questions for staff? Okay.
So, thanks, Cody. And so looking at the vicinity map, there's 3 parcels there. Are all 3 parcels, it looks like by the outline that all 3 are in the DeAndrea Point. So only one sign because it doesn't include either the fitness center, the sign that's the exhibit, doesn't include the fitness center or the, is that Walgreens right there? Walgreens. So even though they're not included in the sign, they can't themselves have their own sign also, correct?
Chair, if I may. So thank you for your question. So one of the standards, which I'll go back just to the sign so you can see it. One of the standards specifies that the sign be placed within 30 feet of Vista's public right-of-way, and the intent behind that standard is that it would be limited to the frontage. So one of those inner parcels wouldn't be allowed to have that with that proposed.
Okay, thank you.
Does the applicant want to add?
Good evening, Mr. Chair, Commissioners. Stacey Huggins, for the record. I'm sorry, my hands are freezing. On behalf of the applicant, Kobe did a great job summarizing this request, and we worked, as he mentioned, very hard with staff to come up with some very specific design standards for this sign that we think are appropriate for this area, and we really appreciate the time that they gave us to work through the details. So I don't have anything to add to his presentation, but I'm here, and also the developer is here if you have questions specifically for him.
Commissioners, do we have any questions for the applicant or for the developer? I see none. You're good.
Thank you.
You have one question. What is this? Limit there?
It's like 55, right?
60 or 70 miles an hour, isn't it?
It's 40 miles an hour.
That's what
Oh my God,
okay.
40? Are you serious?
Good Lord. Okay, so the one that nobody drives. Thank you.
All right. Thanks, Colby. Appreciate it. This is a public hearing item. Anybody from the public wish to make a comment on this particular item? I see none. I will close public comment. Commissioners, I'll entertain a motion.
A motion. I move to forward the City Council a recommendation of approval the request to amend the final approved plan for the DeAndre Plan Development, PCN 18-0040, PD 24-0004, based on findings PDA through PDJ and the facts supporting those findings as set forth in the staff report.
Second that.
All right, commissioners, do we have any further discussion or questions? I see none. Let's vote.
Verbally vote.
All right. Looks like it unanimously passed. Thank you.
Thank you. It'll be nice to know what's in that little strip.
Driving by going.
I know, exactly. You could get a massage there. I didn't know that.
All right, we're on to PCN 05074 /PD 24-003.
Good evening again, Mr. Chair, members of the commission. For the record, Scott Carey, Development Services Manager. Tonight for the Planning Commission's consideration is an amendment to the Marina Village Plan Development Handbook. Subject site for all of the Marina Village is outlined in this slide in blue. It encompasses the existing single-family residential, the apartments, the Marina Villas multifamily project, and the waterfront building. The proposed handbook amendment is to incorporate new design standards for the Marina Square development, which is outlined here in red, which is located just south of the waterfront building and is adjacent to the canal and the beautiful Sparks Marina. This is the fourth amendment to the Marina Village Plan Development, which was initially approved by the City Council in January of 2000. The first amendment to the Marina Village Plan Development Handbook was in 2006, and that incorporated the Marina Square development. The handbook was amended a second time in 2013, and those handbook changes were related to the Marina Villas and the waterfront building. And the last amendment to the handbook was in 2015. Of note, with this 2013 amendment, it did permit for the Marina Square development to be a maximum of 5 stories or 70 feet tall. So why we're here tonight is to replace the existing design standards in the Marina Square plan development. Here on this slide is a rendering of the existing standards in the handbook. As you can see, the existing design standards are different significantly than the rest of the Marina Village plan development. And so with the proposed design standards, the applicant is looking to incorporate what they call the Marina Modern design theme. This is a nautical design theme, and it's conceptually a much different project than what was originally anticipated and called out in the handbook. This is an existing rendering kind of showing that what it looks like from the Sparks Marina. You can see the waterfront building right here. This is the bridge that goes over the canal. This is a rendering looking southwest, and this would be the parking lot for the Marina waterfront building. The water bar building is right here. You can see the backside of the proposed building elevations on that. And this is the canal view. As you can see from the proposed design standards, they seek to incorporate unique sawtooth floor plate configuration into the project while incorporating a site layout that takes advantage of the adjacent recreational opportunities available at the marina. This is a slide from page 80 of the proposed handbook amendment, and this shows how the proposed Marina Modern theme is incorporating existing design standards. You can see the blue colors, which is used throughout the development, but primarily in the single-family residential. Here's the pitched roofs and the sail fin roofs from the Marina, the Marina Villas development, and other proposed changes. I will note for the record, there are some other technical changes to the handbook that are proposed with this amendment. Those are used to reflect the build-out of the Marina Village plan development as it's happened and help with future administration. This is the last remaining developed parcel of the Marina Village plan development. So these technical changes, in staff's opinion, will help us administer the handbook move into the future. There are 10 findings that the Planning Commission is required to make with respect to this handbook amendment. The first one is PDA, and this is consistency with the comprehensive plan. The subject site has been anticipated for multifamily development since the Marina Village Handbook was first amended back in 2006. The proposed design standards for the Marina Square development are of high quality. Staff believes that they will further promote the Marina Village neighborhood as a desirable place to live in support of Goal H3. The proposed amendment also seeks to incorporate the new Marina Modern architectural theme. We believe that this architectural theme has been careful to incorporate materials, colors, and layout that are consistent with the rest of the development, which is in support of policy MG13. And lastly, staff feels that this proposal will support policy H3 of the city's comprehensive plan by adding in new design standards, which will help facilitate construction of smaller multifamily residential units. The concept that's outlined in the proposed amendment here is to do 35 units. These are proposed to be studio-sized apartments, about 500 square feet, which is a new housing style that's not currently offered within the Marina Village plan development. Findings. The next three findings deal with surrounding land uses and the enjoyment of surrounding lands. The proposed new design standards for the Marina Square development are not anticipated to adversely impact surrounding uses. There are no additional units that are proposed as part of this handbook amendment than what's already called out in the Marina Village handbook. With respect to finding PDC, a fiscal impact was not required because the Marina Square site is less than 5 acres in size, and the proposed changes to the design standards did not materially affect the build out of what's already called out in the handbook. The next 4 findings are concerned with the interest of residents and owners and the overall reliance on the plan's provisions and the consistency with the overall Marina Village plan development. As proposed, this amendment is intended to support the Marina Square development, which staff believes has been planned for and it is currently allowed within the handbook, and believes that these 4 findings can be met. The last 2 findings are PDI and PDJ. PDI indicates that this amendment cannot confer a private benefit on any one person. The proposed new design standards allow for any interested party to develop the Marina Square project consistent with these proposed standards. Finding PDJ is with respect to public notice. Staff will note that in July, the applicant did hold an open house with residents of the Marina Village plan development and surrounding business owners. During the meeting, residents did express some concerns with parking that we will take into consideration when this project comes in for an administrative review. But overall, it was generally supportive of the proposed design standards and what is called out here. A total of 180 notices were mailed out to owners of property within 750 feet. Staff will also note that 151 notices were also mailed to nearby mobile home units as required by state law. Public notice was published for tonight's public hearing in the Reno Gazette-Journal on December 3rd. Staff will note that to date, we have not received any public comment on this project. Overall, staff finds that the proposed handbook and the modifications to the Marina Square present a well-considered architectural design that staff believes is compatible with surrounding uses and fosters a strong connection to the waterfront environment and respects the existing aesthetic and architectural theme of the Marina Village plan development. The proposed handbook amendment does not change the number of permitted uses, does not change the review process for future development of the Marina Square site, does not change the parking requirements or landscaping and amenity requirements of the handbook. For the reasons above, staff believes that findings PDA through PDJ can be made and recommends that the Planning Commission forward a recommendation of approval of this handbook amendment to the City Council. I will note from a procedural standpoint, the Planning Commission's recommendation tonight will have a first reading with the City Council at their meeting on January 27th, and final action and consideration by the City Council on the recommendation from this body will take place on February 10th. That concludes my presentation, Mr. Chair. I'd be happy to answer any questions. We do have the applicant's representative here as well.
All right. Commissioners, do we have any questions for staff? No. Good. Does the applicant want to add anything?
Good evening and thank you. For the record, my name is Ken Crater with Crater Consulting Group, representing the owner and applicant on this project, Marina Square LLC, which is basically Steve Holbrook and Jeff Hinckley. And they have been involved in this project for many, many years. They were involved in the development of the newer apartment project, the waterfront at the marina, as well as what was a major remodel of the waterfront building, which is now called The Landing. As you might recall, it used to have that barn-looking structure, and it was modernized. And we are very excited to bring this project before you tonight. As Scott said, it is the last remaining project to be developed in Marina Village, and the project will be built out. And the previous approval, we worked long and hard to try and find a way to make that work, but the structure itself was extremely expensive, and we could never get any interest in financing, and flatly the cost didn't work. So we put together a project that's doable, and in fact, we plan to start the design as soon as hopefully City Council approves this project and submit for building permits in June of this year and move this project forward. We did have that meeting with the neighbors. As Scott said, there was some concerns mainly about parking, and we, I believe, addressed those. They were concerned that we weren't adding additional spaces, but we are. Each space will have its own unit or its own parking stall, and this project will be professionally managed, and tenants will be basically only allowed to have a single car within this project. And in fact, the plan is we're going to use the same management team that manages right now the waterfront at the marina apartment buildings, and the folks that live in these studio units will also be able to use all the amenities within that project. And if you've ever had a chance to go in there, it's a beautiful facility. If you haven't, you should go take a look one day, introduce yourself. It really is a beautiful apartment complex. So we believe this is one of the jewels of the city of Sparks. We're very proud to bring this forward and get this constructed and have people living here. And studio units, because there's no studio units within the Marina Village project right now, but there's definitely a demand for it. So we think this will be very successful, and there's plenty of parking. In fact, if you went through the handbook, we did a very detailed project statistic page, and we even counted all the on-street parking spaces available on Harbor Cove Drive, just adjacent to our project, not the parking within the single-family residential. And there's about 50 parking spaces on street. Now, a lot of folks go there just to park and walk around the lake, and you really can't stop that. They park in the parking lot, but we don't police it. We feel there's adequate parking, and in fact, our asset manager, Jeff Hinckley, is also here tonight. He lives on site, so he's very familiar with this. And also, we're continuing to improve the project. In fact, we just installed a couple of electrical charging stations for the apartment tenants not too long ago. Anybody can use it, folks that go to the restaurant. So if you have any questions, I hopefully can answer those. I've got a lot of different slides here that I think if you have a question, I can easily probably point to one of those and help answer your question. But with that, I'll conclude, and thank you for your time.
All right, thank you. Commissioners, do we have any questions for the applicant? Nope, you're good.
All right, thank you.
Appreciate that. This is a public hearing item. I see if the public would like to make a comment on it. I see none. All right, I'll entertain a motion. Yes.
Development Services Manager.
Okay.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chair, members of the commission. Just one thing to kind of point out for the record is tonight's project is not approving the Marina Square project. That would be reviewed as outlined in the handbook through the city's administrative review process. What you're looking at today are design standards, new design standards for that project, that when that comes in, we would look for to make sure that it meets those standards. Thank you.
Thank you, Scott. All right. Any further discussion, commissioners? No? All right, I'll entertain a motion.
A motion?
All right, we have a motion. Oh, go ahead and read it.
I'll read it. I move forward to city council recommendation of approval of the request to amend the final approved plan for the Marina Village Plan Development CN 05074 /PD 24-0003 based on findings PA, PDJ, and the fact reporting was
Second.
All right, I got a motion by Commissioner Kramer, a second by Commissioner Pritzos. Let's vote. Up, we're up. All right. Whoever can vote, vote, and then those that can't, please vote out loud.
I vote in favor.
Me too.
All right. Oh, there we go. The motion passes unanimously. Thank you. All right, we're on to general business. Any announcements? Nope. All right, I'll open it up for public comment one more time. Anybody from the public can comment? I see none. I will close it. Public comment. All right, then we go to staff comments and announcements.
I don't have any here.
All right. Any commissioner comments or announcements? All right, meeting adjourned.
Merry Christmas.